It's time!
Let's kick it, everybody. We are back for another episode of Pickin Fights. I'm Keith, joined as always by Tom. Tom, how are you tonight, brother?
I'm doing good, Keith. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I had a little bit of an off week last week. I picked a guy I felt very confident about, Miguel Baeza. Ended up getting stopped in a potentially weird way against Chaos Williams. Basically all I got from that last card was Herb Dean. It might be time to go, time to retire, time to step down, or time to take another class in reffing. What do you think about that, real quick?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Herb Dean is still one of the best refs out there. And you got to remember that he is reffing all the time. So, when the more exposure you have, the more you're going to probably be open to mistakes. I think being a ref is probably one of the most difficult jobs when it comes to being in MMA, next to being an actual fighter. So I think just like fighters or baseball players or really anybody, you go through periods of good and bad. And I think for the majority of his career, it's been really good. I mean, Herb Dean has been one of the best referees in martial arts or mixed martial arts for a very long time, not just with the UFC, but across promotions. So I think, he's maybe had a couple questionable things as of late, but we're not sitting here and talking about all of his great decisions. So, cut the guy a little slack, let him go. I understand, there's really not a lot of slack to be had. It's really important to, keep everyone's health in the forefront of your mind. But at the end of the day, it is an extremely difficult job. It's not going to be done perfectly every single time. I think it's just having a little bit of a slump here, but, I'd still trust Herb Dean to ref at any fight that I'd be in.
All right, fair enough. Well said. Herb Dean, we still love you, bro. So this week we're going to jump into fight night. We got Miesha Tate versus Ketlen Vieira as our main event. Love Miesha Tate, love talking about her. But first, as always, we're going to jump in with our prelim locks. So my very first prelim lock, I've got Luanna Pinero versus Sam Hughes. I'm taking Luanna Pinero. This girl has only one professional loss in her MMA career. She's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fight win streak. She's 9-1 right now, and her last win came against Randa Marcos. Some of you guys might remember that one. There was an illegal up kick in the very first round. Luanna Pinero had Randa Marcos on her back and was kind of pummeling her a little bit, went to go stand up, and Randa Marcos just clocked her right in the face. And, Luanna Pinero had a moment where it was very Aljo-esque. Flopping around on the ground, kind of selling the illegal up kick really hard. But one thing we got to keep in mind is that she did look really good in that first round in that fight against Randa Marcos. And, she's only got one loss for a reason. There's a girl who's working her way up. So I'm going with Luanna Pinero here to beat Sam Hughes. It looks like the people of Tapology agree with me on this one. I'm going to pull up those for you real quick. We got 92% coming in on Luanna Pinero. And, it looks like a lot of people are thinking that she's going to win. She's going to finish the fight. Only 34% of those votes are coming in on her to win by decision. So Luanna Pinero, she's got a high chance of finishing this one. And I like it. I like her here. And, no hate to Sam Hughes, but I think Luanna Pinero's got this one in the bag. As long as she doesn't get illegally upkicked. Well, you know what? Then it's a guaranteed win. So who knows? Maybe she will have an illegal move pulled on her again. Tom, what do you think about that one?
Well, yeah, I would just be nervous. I don't think that she would be prone to have illegal moves pulled on her. I think, maybe what's more likely to happen is she is then the victim of, some type of weird event where somebody may be playing up some type of theater aspect to it. But on the other, other side, whatever you want to call it, Sam Hughes, Sam Page, she's honest. She hasn't proven that she's really all that good. Her last few fights, she hasn't looked that good in them. And she has a very good chin. So, she is just one of those fighters who she's not very good, but she's, kind of bolstered by the fact that she has a good chin and can just walk forward and sometimes outlast people. So, the finish, I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know if it's as much of a foregone conclusion, maybe, but I do think Pinero is going to be the better striker. I think if she can keep it up, she could take the first round, and if she can keep her, stamina, her gas tank managed, she could probably take the second round. The third round, I think maybe we'll go to Sam Hughes just because she has relentless pressure, unless Pinero can put her down, but she just hasn't been put down before. She's 29 years old, so she's not old. She's not like, approaching an area where you might be concerned about that. So I think it'll probably be a, 29-28 unanimous decision for Pinero, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. Sam Hughes' chin is very good, but we got to keep in mind that Luanna Pinero, of her 9 wins, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 have come by submission. One really notable one was a guillotine over at Brave CF. Go back and watch that one. That was still pretty early in her career. So she does, have more than just her stand-up game. I really like Luanna here. I think she could get it done by submission as well. I'm not sure what Sam Hughes's Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills are like, but I like Luanna. She's a really good, really, complete fighter in the UFC. So what do you got by way of prelim locks, Tom?
Yeah, I really like Sean Soriano over Shalian Nordin Bianche. Hope I said that right. Wolverine. Let's call him Wolverine, just going forward. But yeah, Wolverine, he's coming off the regional scene. He kind of looked slow in his last few times out, coming off, in the regionals. This is actually both of these guys' second fights in the UFC. Both of them are coming off losses in the UFC. I think Soriano has a little bit better of a competition when he first came in, fighting Christos Giagos, losing via Darce choke. That was about 5 months ago. Same time frame ago, Joshua Culiabo won a unanimous decision over the guy I'm calling Wolverine. So, but either way, he was slow in both that fight and in whatever tape you can find of him on the regional scene. He just didn't have really great reaction time, and as far as his strikes themselves, they don't come out with as much pop or as much ferocity as you would expect or you would hope. Soriano, he's definitely had the better competition in the past, and in his last time, he's spent more time at bigger promotions, so he's more used to that higher level of competition. I just don't think that Wolverine has the stand-up ability to fight with Sean Soriano, and I think his lack of speed is really gonna not allow for him to contend with Sean Soriano for a long period of time. So I see Soriano finishing this one maybe in the first or the second round.
Yeah, I like that a lot. You're right. And Sean Soriano, just talking about terms of competition, he's from UAE Warriors before the UFC. That was the last promotion that he fought with. And, they've got some pretty serious guys coming out of there now. So definitely think that the disparity in competition is a big factor playing into this one. Sean Soriano's last fight, too, it was on UFC 262, the Oliveira versus Chandler card against Christos Giagos. So, dude, he's really doing it all right now. And this guy, Wolverine, he's brand new, fresh-faced. I really like Sean Soriano here.
Awesome. Well, I have one more prelim lock for you, and that one is going to be Natan Levy over Rafael Garcia. Listen, this is going to be a little bit more about Garcia than it's going to be about Levy. Levy's going to be a guy, this is going to be his first actual UFC fight. His fight before this was on the Contender Series, getting a finish via arm triangle. So he's going to be new, but I just think that he's going to be he's a ground guy. He's a solid wrestler. He hasn't had a ton of high level competition, but he shows, a consistent ability in his previous fights to get other guys to the ground. He's also been, he's been, well, I can't even read my own writing here, but whatever. He's been hittable in the past. That's what I was trying to say. He's been hittable in the past, but he's also not really had the best chin going down at times. but he's also kind of green, and he's, 30 years old. So, he's also been off for, a decent amount of time, been off for about a year. So maybe his chin's been able to rejuvenate to a certain degree. He's been able to work on maybe being a little bit more defensive, making good decisions. But like I said, this is going to be more of a pick against Garcia than a pick for Levy. And that's because Garcia has just been looking worse and worse in his last few fights. He got pieced up by Nasrat Haqparast in his first fight in the UFC. And he was really just getting pieced up by Nasrat each and every round for the entirety of the fight, losing a unanimous decision. And then he comes back and he fights against Chris Gutensmacher, and he, just didn't look good in that fight either. Lost another unanimous decision. I just don't think he's that good at this point. And I think Levy's going to come in there. And I think, in the opportunity or in a situation where one guy, is not that great, and the other guy's coming in, he's been solid in his previous fights. And that he's going to be a little bit bigger as well. He's going to be, he's fights he's actually, his last fight was closer to a catch weight, 160. So he's going to be the bigger guy when he gets in the cage. And when we're talking about grappling heavy fighters, I'm going to lean towards Natan Levy. And then looking at the guys on Tapology, Levy is favored 76 to 24% of the 550 votes. 66% of that is by decision. I think he has the ability to be a little bit more of like a wet blanket type of guy and just get on top and try and grind to a decision. So, for those reasons, I'm going Natan Levy as a prelim lock over Rafa Garcia.
Yeah, I like that a lot, especially because it's not even a pick for Levy. It's a pick against his opponent here. But, dude, that being hittable, you can't be hittable in the UFC. Some guys are just going to take advantage of that. And I think Natan Levy is going to take major advantage of that in this fight. No matter how it shakes out, whether he lands a good one on the chin or it goes to decision, those strike numbers and, a significant strike, they're going to factor into this fight heavily. So I like that pick a lot. I'll be riding with you there. If you parlay our 3 prelim locks, I feel like that's a pretty solid parlay right there. You're going to get around like plus 300 odds on that. And, that's better than, any live dog that you're going to get this week, because nobody's bringing in odds like that we like, as far as I'm aware. So we're going to move on up to the main card. We got Adrian Yanez versus Davey Grant, and I'm rolling with Adrian here. I really like him in this fight, and I actually like him to finish this one. This guy's a dog. He made his way into the UFC on the Contender Series in 2020, and he hasn't lost a fight in the UFC since. Last win coming against Randy Costa. He's knocking dudes out and finishing guys all over the place. So he's like a real contender at this point, working his way up. And in this fight, I think Davey Grant's just another body in his way. I'm rolling with Yanez here. There really isn't much else to say. And if you got any doubts about it, well, the people at Tapology agree. We got 89% of the votes coming in on Adrian, and 73% of those are by KO. I'm really feeling Yanez as like a main card lock this week. Davey Grant, he doesn't stand a chance in this one. So what do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to finish him. Davey Grant has been finished in his past. The only losses that he have that aren't by a decision are, by being submitted. So he's been, submittable in the past, but he hasn't really shown a weakness in his chin that's going to allow him to be finished. So maybe this is going to be the first one. And, to be honest, or to that effect, Adrian Yanez is a very, very slick, swift, very composed, calm, accurate striker. And he's got a really he showed in his last fight a big heart and really good durability to be able to get hit and really drop the first round and then turn around and come back and win a fight in the second and third rounds and go on to win a decision. Yanez, he is very, very good on the feet. He shows that he's adept on the ground. He can handle himself. He can have adversity, face adversity, and then, adjust and overcome it. And at this point in Davey Grant's career, he is starting to get older. He's 35, 36 years old. He's starting to enter that latter stage of the career for him. He's got okay stand up, and he actually prefers to stand up now, even though he's got his real legitimate base is going to be in his wrestling. He's kind of abandoned that as of lately and relied more so on his hands, despite kind of a recent ability to knock out Jonathan Martinez. I really don't think that he's really that guy. I don't think he's got knockout power like for prolonged that you're going to see over and over and over again. And I think Adrian Yanez, or not, I know Adrian Yanez is much better on the feet. And I think he's going to be proficient enough to keep this standing if he wants. And honestly, even if it goes to the ground, I think Yanez might have a little bit more of an advantage there. This is another setup fight for Yanez to, move further on in the division. He's 27 years old, going on 28, entering that prime of his career. He's primed to, be a star. He's starting to gain a really solid Twitter following. I think this is a setup fight for him. I think he's going to be able to showcase his standing ability, and I think he's going to finish this fight. But I would say maybe take this one by decision, just because of Davey Grant's ability to not go down and have a good chin.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But something we have said in the past, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all. Davey Grant is a warrior with a good chin. He has had 2 wars with Chito Vera over the past couple of years. Past 2 years, actually, I believe. And, Chito Vera, listen, if he couldn't finish Davey Grant, maybe Yanez can't. But also, when you're in wars like that at 35 years old, it does take a toll on your chin. I'm definitely throwing Yanez in some sort of parlay this weekend, probably with those prelim locks that we had. And then I'll stake him for a knockout straight up, just because I like that slick boxing and that slick stand-up that he has. So we'll move on up to the next one. We've got Joanne Wood, formerly Joanne Calderwood, versus Talia Santos. Funny thing to keep in mind, she lost the Calder this week, Joanne, because she married a dude with the last name Wood. So so now she's just Joanne Wood, no longer Joanne Calderwood. But I'm going to toss this one over to you first, Tom. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, so Talia Santos, she's been really good lately, but you got to remember she's young, and the wins on her most recent win streak is Roxanne Modafferi, it's Jillian Robertson, and it's Molly McCain. Molly McCain was on the verge of being kicked out of the UFC prior to her most recent win. Jillian Robertson, not a phenomenal win, and then obviously Roxanne Modafferi, who was just retired not too long ago, and we would almost credit anyone to lose to her as discount them as being having any semblance of being a solid fighter moving forward. So not great wins for Talia Santos, but you can only beat who's in front of you. If they put shit people in front of you, you can only beat who you can beat. So she's been good lately, but her recent streak's kind of iffy. She's got a good striking game, and she's also showed that she has a better ground game as of lately. She's been able to go to the ground with her opponents and keep them there at her will, basically as her way to win. I think she's those people that she had fought. They've been in the UFC for a little while. They weren't new to this level of competition, and they had solid levels of takedown defense. So her ability to get them on the ground and keep them on the ground, I think, is really what shines through the most, more than just the names of who the people are and them not being that impressive. As far as Joanne Calderwood, that's hilarious. She has a really high work rate, and she really doesn't get finished super easy, but her weakness is submission defense. She can grapple, but she mainly uses it to stay standing, and she has a very volume-based approach, volume-based output approach to striking. She has good striking IQ, but I think at this point we've probably seen already the best of her at 35, 36 years old. I think she's on the tail end of her career, and I think these next few fights, we're probably going to start to see a decline in Joanne Wood, previously Joanne Calderwood. In this fight, in a matchup of 2 solid people on the ground, but one who has a very glaring weakness when it comes to submission defense, I think Talia Santos probably, she doesn't have the advantage when it comes to striking, but she's also decent enough at it. I think she's going to be a little bit stronger, and when it comes to have a tale of two fighters, one being the better wrestler, one being a little bit younger, having, coming in on a little bit of a hype train, versus someone who's going to be past their prime, a volume striker with a submission defense issue, I'm going with the wrestler.
So you're going with Talia Santos.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And that submission defense problem that you mentioned for Joanne Wood, that is a huge factor for her going into this one. I mean, when you go back and look, like, okay, so Joanne Wood got into the UFC in season 20 of The Ultimate Fighter and lost to Rose Namajunas by Kimura. And then you go through her fights in the UFC after that, and the majority of her losses have come by submission. So that alone speaks volumes. Now, this is a woman who was in talks to potentially go up and fight Valentina Shevchenko. She had her fight with Lauren Murphy. That was back on the Adesanya Vettori 2 card. That was in June, right? So, just as recently as June, she was in talks for a title shot. She wouldn't have won it at all. But she lost a split decision to Lauren Murphy. So I'm a little bit more conflicted in this one because she has been fighting at the top of the flyweight division. And like you mentioned, Talia Santos, getting wins against people like Roxanne. I'm more split on this one, but I am going with Talia Santos just because of that glaring submission defense issue. I'm 100% with you on that. I think it's going to come, it's going to be another loss by that in this fight because, dude, her record speaks for itself. Her outside of that split decision loss, she beat Jessica Ai before that, and then she lost to Jennifer Maia by an armbar. Mm-hmm. It's all of her losses are pretty much coming by submission. So, it's a glaring issue here. So I'm going to roll with Talia Santos.
She does show, incredible durability to be able to constantly get hit, and keep moving forward. So, similar to, the first fight we talked about on this card, what is it? Sam Hughes. But the first fight we talked, that ability to just keep getting hit and keep moving forward and have a high volume output. But I just don't think when it comes to, someone who's going to be a little bit younger, a little bit more energetic, someone who's, really still fighting for the rest of their career and, who's got the wrestling advantage. I think, that's who's going to take it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, dude. I think that's that's huge for this. I think the biggest factor, like I said, in my opinion, the glaring issue is the submission defense. So now we've got Ronnie Yahya versus Kyung Kang. Definitely said Ronnie's name wrong. Man, dude, we're getting some tough names to say now that the UFC is going global. All apologies, but I'll let you kick this one off and see if you can correct my pronunciation, Tom.
Yeah, I like Hani Yahya in this one over Kyung Kang. Ronnie Yahya, or Hani Yahya, I really want to call him Ronnie, but I've heard him been called Ronnie before. So,
Right.
Ronnie Yahya, he's a wild striker. He throws really powerful overhands. And he has a very submission oriented ground game. When you go to the ground with Yahya, he's going to want to submit you. He's not going to just try and lay on you. He's going to look for the finish. He has and been around the block. So, I think he's had a little bit more. He's used to the UFC a little bit more. So, I like him, and I think he's going to overcome Kang in this one. Kang, although is actually going to have the size advantage. He's going to have the ability to. He's going to have He's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage, 73 inches to 68. So he's going to have the ability to pop that jab out there and be able to keep that distance from Ronnie. Ronnie is going to be much shorter in this fight. 5'6" against Kang is going to be 5'9". So it's all going to be about Ronnie's ability to get in on Kang and try to get him to the ground. Grappling wise, Kang looks for positions and holds it. He's not a huge ground and pound guy when he's on top, but he's more of like a wet blanket and keeps people down. I think ultimately he's going to be able to use his stand-up to keep a distance. And then if it does ultimately come in close I think he's going to be able to get the top position. He's going to be able to defend against any submissions that Ronnie Yahya goes for, and he's going to be able to just basically outlast Ronnie in it until a decision, probably 2 rounds to 1.
Okay, so you're going with Kang here as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's what I was thinking as well. Just because, with that big looping, striking energy that Ronnie Yahya brings, it really doesn't fare well against a guy with a reach advantage here. I agree with everything you said. Popping that jab, maintaining distance. The biggest factor is, can Yahya get him to the ground? Now this is a -110 fight on both ends with the odds. It's a legitimate pick 'em fight. So, you know what? Because of that, dude, and because this fight at the end of the day could go either way, right? Say Kang, he stays out there, maintains the distance, or Yahya gets in there and just abuses Kang in the grappling realm. We have to go split on at least one fight, right? We have to. So I'm gonna go with Ronnie Yahya on this one. Fun name to say, Yahya. I like it. And I really like his submission game. You go back and it's like all of his fights, all of his wins are coming by submission pretty much. Triangle choke, let's see, heel hook, arm triangle choke, Kimura, arm triangle. Okay, he really likes the arm triangle chokes. So you know what, I'm gonna go with Yahya here. That size advantage, that Kang has, obviously that's in his favor. If he can use that, maintain the distance, keep saying that over and over again, because it's going to be the biggest factor in this fight, then, it's Kang's fight. But we got to split on at least one. It's a pick 'em fight. I'm going to go with Yahya here. So we'll move on up to the next one. We got Michael Chiesa versus Sean Brady. I'm actually this one's tough for me because I do like Sean Brady. And this is one of those ones where, like, I think, Sean Brady is probably going to win. But I do have this gut feeling that Chiesa, coming off the loss to Vicente Luque, is going to somehow find a way to get it done here. That's that's the biggest thing for me in this one, is like there's those intangibles in the fight game, right? There's how good of a striker are you, and how good of a wrestler, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner are you. And obviously, Michael Chiesa is a great wrestler and BJJ fighter. But, I think those intangibles come into play here. Like, who is Chiesa? Chiesa is a guy that we've seen, come back from losses, bounce back pretty hard. He's won 4 of his last 5. And I like him off of that loss. It's because of those intangibles. He really got caught in that choke by Luque, but it's the drive that I see Michael Chiesa having. I mean, this is a guy who still wants a title shot. He's 33 years old and he still wants to go up there and fight Kamaru Usman. Who knows? Maybe this is the fight that puts him, back on the right track. Sean Brady seems pretty much unstoppable right now. He's winning 5 of his last 5. I'll go back and look at how many other fights he's on a massive streak. Oh shit, he's 14-0. That's right. This is a tough one. I know you're gonna go with Brady, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm going with Michael Chiesa here. I think he'll hand Sean Brady his first loss. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's gut. It's my gut. Michael Chiesa off the downslide, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I had that same like gut initial feeling of like, oh man, I could totally see this being the one that Chiesa comes in and wins. But ultimately, I think he's turning around and ultimately making an emotional decision. I think he's gonna try to maybe a little extra hard to win this one, and some guys can bounce back and make a good level-headed fight, and some guys are gonna be emotional. I think he definitely has the possibility to be either guy. He's been emotional in fights. He's been level-headed in fights. So, it's just important. We don't know what we're going to get. Chiesa, just a background on him. He's a really good grappler. He's tall and he's long for the division. He's been working on his striking, but it's no secret what he wants to do. He wants to close the distance, take you down, He wants to pin you to the cage and trip, or either if he can't take you down, he's going to want to push you back up against the cage, pin you there, and then trip you and take you down that way. He likes submissions, but he has the ability to lay on top of you and stall out rounds against guys who have good submission defense. He has sometimes struggled against guys where, they're also very good on the ground and maybe a little bit bigger than him and able to bully him around a bit and negate some of his jiu-jitsu style. On the other side, you have Sean Brady, who is a good submission grappler in his own right. Maybe not as good as Chiesa, but he's definitely very good. You look at his last few fights; a lot of them, finished his last fight against Jake Matthews by arm triangle. Then, Christian Aguilera by guillotine. Before that, he won a decision. And then he has a couple decisions before that, and then right outside, in order to get into the UFC and Cage Fury, he won by TKO and punches. So he's able to do a little bit of it all. Where he is much better than Chiesa is in the stand-up and the boxing ability. He really is just much better in that regard. Like I was saying, where Chiesa is going to try and, punch a little bit and then try to get in to take you down. Brady's a lot more comfortable standing and fighting with you a little bit more. He doesn't have to take you down quite as quickly. He doesn't have as much experience, but I think he's shown, good submission and grappling chops. He's a few steps ahead in the boxing aspect too. He has the ability to piece people or put people away standing up. He doesn't have to look for those takedowns just as quick as Chiesa does. He can lean on his striking. He has definitely more power. I think Chiesa might be looking, to be turn around a little bit quicker and try to get back towards the top. I think he might be making a decision at times in the fight that is, going to leave him a little bit more vulnerable. Like I said, Chiesa, his weakness is usually trying to wrestle guys that also have significant or, good wrestling chops. So I think, that spells that it might be a little bit of an issue for Chiesa. And also Brady, he's normal for 170. He's actually kind of big for 170. You'll see a size discrepancy. Like I know that Chiesa, he fights at 55, he fights at 70, and he's still kind of, guys who can fight at 155 and fight at 70, you're probably going to be undersized for 70, where Sean Brady fights at 170. So he probably walks around at a weight and he's going to be in the cage at a weight where he's going to be able to be bigger than Chiesa. And when Chiesa is a guy who has weaknesses against guys who have solid ground games, but also guys who are a little bit bigger than him. I think that, those are definitely two big aspects of this fight that Chiesa wants to be nervous about, in addition to having the giving up, a couple degrees on the striking game. And then, there's a lot on this fight. He doesn't want to go on a 2-fight skid, back to back. He's a little bit older. He's not going to be able to bully the guy. He has a 3-inch reach advantage, so that's going to be good. But again, Sean Brady's going to be able to get in there in boxing. I like Sean Brady.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Sean Brady knocked out Chiesa, but I don't know. So this is a tough one for me. It's just that gut feeling. And another thing to keep in mind is that Chiesa, a guy that he coached in high school in wrestling, Terrence McKinney, is also on this card. And not that that's going to play a factor at all, but, I think maybe they'll go in there and get like a clean sweep. These two guys that are on the same card and have been connected for many, many years. Maybe they'll both go in there and win their fights because what's that face?
I'm going to say, I think, before we saw Trevor Whitman do it, clean sweeps are very unlikely. Like usually they don't happen. It's really only like Trevor Whitman and Khabib Nurmagomedov as coaches where that happens. I know that like it's not totally the same thing, but yeah, I think Terrence McKinney wins because I think he's on a big hype train. I think he's going to use good ground game to be able to keep the fight, where he wants it. Geez, sorry, must have some acid reflux or something. But ultimately, yeah, I think McKinney's going to get it done, and I think Chiesa's not going to get it done.
Yeah, passing of the torch between those two guys, maybe. Just in terms of like UFC futures. I don't know. Still rolling with Chiesa here. So those intangibles and the gut feeling. That's what I'm going with here. Sean Brady, the most likely outcome is a win for him, but who knows? So now we got Ketlen Vieira versus Miesha Tate, the main event in this one. I'm going with my girl Miesha Tate. Love her to death. One of the stars of the UFC world when I got into the sport. Back when like it was Ronda Rousey and Miesha Tate and Chris Cyborg and all these women who, I mean, Miesha Tate's like the only one still active in the UFC from that time, besides, Amanda Nunes, but she came in a little bit later too. So I really like Miesha Tate in this one. It's not like when she was fighting Marion Renault, who was like, it was literally her last fight. And it was so lopsided for Miesha Tate, and it was only a main event because it was her comeback. Like, this is a legitimate main event between these two women. Vegas is telling the story too. It's plus 100 underdog for Ketlen Vieira and minus 120 in favor of Miesha Tate. But Miesha Tate, she's a really complete all-around fighter, and she had all those years off, and it doesn't really look like she's missed a step. This is a real test as opposed to Renault. But I really like Miesha Tate, and I can already see that like pre-fight video on ESPN Plus when she's making her way up the rankings again, and eventually is like main eventing, or probably like a co-main event on like a real pay-per-view card, maybe fighting for a belt at some point. And they're like, Miesha Tate, was in it, was at the top for so long, left, and now she's back. And this is just one of those Hollywood stories, probably not unlike that new Halle Berry movie that's coming out. That probably should have just been called The Story of Miesha Tate. Sometimes you can't beat the Hollywood story, and I really like Miesha Tate to get this one done, especially by decision. She's a point fighter. She always has been. She's always been the type to play her game out there, whether it be, figuring out what the opponent can't handle and using that against her. So I really like Miesha Tate here for the story, for her fight IQ, and for her all-around ability to get it done, most likely by decision against Ketlen Vieira. So what do you think about this one, Tom?
Yeah, Miesha Tate, she's definitely the older fighter, but she's going to have more experience. That experience coming about 4 years, 5 years ago at this point. Her last fight, granted, she did look very good. She finished Marion Renault, the first person to do so. But that being said, Marion Renault, absolute, like, doesn't get any more tail end than your final fight, your retirement fight at age 43. So, at that point, if you're getting beaten, you just kind of like, all right, give up. And then, why fight through it at that point? So maybe that was the reason why in her final fight, she was finished. Either way, it's just really, really hard to judge Miesha Tate and say, oh, shit, looks like she hasn't skipped a beat. Sure. But, also a lot of people have gotten wins over Marion Renault. So it's probably not a good barometer or a metric for judging like where you are. Whereas Ketlen Vieira, yes, she had a loss to Yana Kunitskaya that didn't look good, but she had a win against Soraya Eubanks that did look good. She's been more active. And I think, there is something to be said for that. Grappling is Miesha Tate's strong suit, and then there's no hiding that. She's a striker to grappler, but she's a grappler first, and then she uses the grappling to land ground and pound and win on, Keith, you talk about it a lot, where women's MMA is a little bit different than men's MMA, where especially when it comes to the ground, you can just be in the top position, even if you're not landing a ton of strikes, you can win a lot of points with the judges. And Miesha Tate kind of does that in addition to landing strikes. So it's very clear of like who is winning the fight. She doesn't take, a lot of chances though. She's not looking for necessarily the finish per se. When we look at Caitlyn Vieira, she's also a little bit of a wrestler by trade. I think she's a little bit bigger, looking at their size. Miesha Tate, she goes by Cupcake. She's a little bit smaller. I think Caitlyn Vieira, she's going to have a little bit more, just ability. I think she's going to be more used to fighting. I think it makes sense to, continue this trend that you and I have been on with kind of going against each other. This will be the third fight in the row. We kind of pick on an opposite side. I could definitely see Miesha Tate winning, but I also wouldn't overlook Caitlyn Vieira. And her ability to be active, and the fact that, it's possible to read too far into Miesha Tate's comeback fight against, a 43-year-old fighter when, here's the real fact. Fighters, especially women fighters, 36, 37, 38 years old is really pushing it. And the lighter you are, the earlier you tend to retire. So coming back at 35 years old for Miesha Tate, fighting a 43-year-old, yeah, you're going to look good. But then now, what about a 30-year-old who, 2.5 months ago was a 29-year-old, someone who's been fighting, hasn't taken 5 years off, hadn't had a kid. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know if Caitlyn Vieira has a kid, but you know where I'm going. So I think it would just be more fun for me to go with Caitlyn Vieira. She's got solid size. She has the ability to hold her own on the ground. She can win some of the striking exchanges. I think she probably has a little bit of a leg up when it comes to striking against Miesha Tate. I think the jump up in competition for Tate might just be a little bit too much too quick. So I'm going to go with Caitlyn Vieira.
Yeah, I like that you're splitting it up like we have been. You can kind of tell my last two picks have also been very nostalgia based as well. Miesha Tate, Michael Chiesa, like goes back to a kinder time in MMA, and when you didn't have to be like a complete all around fighter, you could have your one discipline like Miesha Tate with her wrestling, striker to grappler, Michael Chiesa just grappling. But these are definitely nostalgia picks for me. This is definitely a nostalgia card for a lot of decade-long fans of the UFC now. But hey, you know what? Vieira could get it done here. You're 100% right. Renault, not exactly a challenge for Miesha Tate. And the only thing, and it's hard to judge that. The only thing that really stands out to me in that one is two things, is that Miesha Tate did look very good. And she's the only person to ever finish Renault. So that does speak volumes to me, in terms of just Miesha Tate's comeback. But you can't deny 5 years off. Like, that's a major impact on your career. So I'm going with Miesha Tate, like I said, but I do like your pick here. Those locks, though, those ones that we did agree on, those are definite ones that I will be parlaying this week. And I like those a lot, especially our prelim locks. The ones that we agreed on, if you're at home and you're tailing us right now, take those for shizzle. They are good for sure. That means for sure if you don't listen to like 2000s rap. Those are great picks. They're good too. I'd maybe take some props in these. Like for me personally, I would go with Miesha Tate by decision, as opposed to just taking her straight up. You could take her straight up -120, but I like Miesha Tate by decision in this one. So you want to run through our picks one more time, Tom?
Yeah, I'll run through our picks. Before we do that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on the video. If you think we're doing a good job, if you like the picks we're giving you, if you like the background that we're providing, if you're not into as much the betting side, but you just like knowing a little bit about the guys and the fighters and the women that are going out there and putting it on the line each and every weekend, give us a thumbs up, let us know, give us some feedback in the comments, and share the video, let other people know. Show the support. So with all that being said, my picks, my prelim locks, they are going to be.
I got a request. Comment down below if you think I should shave. Let me know if you think I should shave. And if enough people say that I should shave, then I'll shave. That's a comment that I'm looking for. So we're going to be counting those up at the end of the week. Shave or don't shave. If more than 10 people comment to shave, then I'll shave. But I like my beard. Don't make me shave. All right, run down your picks, Tom. Sorry.
My picks. Luanna Pinero over Sam Hughes. I have Sean Soriano winning his fight. Take the under on the rounds for the Terrence McKinney. Actually, don't take necessarily the under on the rounds, but I think it's going to get finished in either the first or second round. I don't see that one going into the third. I like Nathan Levy over Rafa Garcia. I like Adrian. I like Adrian Yanez over Davey Grant when we get to the main card. I like Santos over Wood. That's funny. I like Yahya over Kang. I like Sean Brady over Michael Chiesa. And I like Caitlyn Vieira over Miesha Tate. But when I said I like Yahya over Kang, I didn't mean it. I mean I like Kang over Yahya.
Yeah, so I'm going with Luanna Pinero. I am going with Sean Soriano. I'm taking Yanez. I'm taking Talia Santos over Wood. I'm taking Ronnie Yahya. And I'm taking Michael Chiesa. And I'm taking Miesha Tate. Very divisive episode between us, Tom. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, we only agreed on the undercard when it came to the main card. I don't think we only picked one together. We only picked one together.
We both picked Santos and we both picked Yanez.
interesting. I wonder where we'll fall on that. All right. Well, awesome. Another card, another dollar. We got some really good ones as we head down the stretch here with the end of the year.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see who they fill in for George and Leon. You know what that's going to end up looking like.
If they fill it,
wait.
if they fill it, they may bump Leon up and say, you know what, shut up, have him fight for the title, give Colby and George, and actually they're both hurt, right? Have them fight or not fight, coach the next season of The Ultimate Fighter, and then have them fight, and then after that, see where everything stands.
Yeah, I was really.
We're already getting a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight. We just need Gilbert Burns to fight somebody. So maybe Hamzat or something like that. Hamzat, Gilbert Burns, or something interesting.
I was really hoping to see Hamzat take on Leon. That fight that was supposed to be made so many times, never got made. Really was hoping to see that, but only
actually,
time.
Let Hamzat step right in. Let him do that.
Yeah, that would have been great. But I think Leon backed out once George went down, right?
Yeah, he's kind of a pussy for that. What are you going to do?
Yeah, he knew that Hamzat was the next guy up. He just don't want to fight him. Yo, quick spin. Leon Edwards gave Hamzat COVID. He sent him an envelope that someone with COVID sneezed and coughed all over and almost made Hamzat retire. That's my hot take. My conspiracy theory for the UFC. Leon Edwards did not want to fight Hamzat, still doesn't want to fight Hamzat.
I think more likely Colby won, called out George. George realized there was more money in a fight against Colby. So he was like, fuck it, I'm hurt. And then he's going to go do The Ultimate Fighter with Colby and then make a super fight and make a ton of bread.
That too. Both of those things could have definitely happened. I think the second one is way more likely. But, we'll see what happens with these next couple of cards going down the stretch. I'm really looking forward to talking about them with you, kid.
Sounds good. You too, buddy. Take it easy, everyone. Thanks for watching.